Now, every convention is not just about officially picking the nominee, it's also about telling a story about what the party represents. And from the get-go last night, it was clear that the Democrats were trying to portray themselves as the party of diversity, unity, and also patriotism. The show kicked off with people of every race, ethnicity, and gender reciting the Constitution, then the Pledge of Allegiance, and then singing the national anthem, after which they were ominously trapped inside an American flag. I'm assuming the only way to set them free is by electing Joe Biden as president. I think that's how the spell works, right? And I mean, it's clear why the Democrats have to lay the patriotism on so thick. Because between protesting police brutality and kneeling during the anthem, the Republicans have tried to make it seem like Democrats don't love America just because they criticize it. So look, I get why Democrats are trying to fight that perception, but if I'm going to be honest, you are never going to beat Trump when it comes to symbolic patriotism. I mean, yeah, you're singing the anthem, but anytime Trump even sees a flag, he tries to the shit out of it. Now, after 10 minutes of patriotism porn, the show heard from a number of everyday Americans, from the swing state of Pennsylvania all the way to the other parts of Pennsylvania. Business owners talked about their struggles during COVID, and Trump voters talked about why they've stopped supporting him. They also had an appearance by the family of George Floyd, who talked about the need to fight systemic racism. But one of the most powerful moments early in the show came from a woman whose Trump-supporting father died from COVID-19.
I'm Kristen Urquiza. I'm one of the many who has lost a loved one to COVID. My dad, Mark Anthony Urquiza, should be here today, but he isn't. He had faith in Donald Trump. He voted for him, listened to him, believed him and his mouthpieces when they said that coronavirus was under control and going to disappear. My dad went to a karaoke bar with his friends. A few weeks later, he was put on a ventilator. And after 5 agonizing days, he died alone. His only pre-existing condition was trusting Donald Trump. One of the last things that my father said to me was that he felt betrayed by the likes of Donald Trump.
Wow, that was absolutely scathing. And she's right. Believing Donald Trump is truly one of the most harmful things you can do. And that was even before he was president. I mean, just ask Atlantic City, his first 2 wives, or any graduate of Trump University. The degree was made of asbestos. But after hearing from some regular Americans, it was time to hear from America's weirdest Americans, politicians. And one of the biggest speakers of the night was Republican John Kasich, the former governor of Ohio and guy who's always moments away from needing the Heimlich maneuver. He crossed party lines to warn his fellow Republicans about the cost of supporting Trump.
America is at a crossroads. Sometimes elections represent a real choice, a choice we make as individuals and as a nation about which path we want to take when we've come to challenging times. America is at that crossroads today. The stakes in this election are greater than any in modern times. Many of us have been deeply concerned about the current path we've been following for the past 4 years. It's a path that's led to division, dysfunction, irresponsibility, and growing vitriol between our citizens. Continuing to follow that path will have terrible consequences for America's soul because we're being taken down the wrong road by a president who is pitted one against the other. He's unlike all of our best leaders before him who worked to unite us, to bridge our differences, and lead us to a united America.
Wow, how creative. America is at a crossroads and he's standing at a crossroads. I wonder if that was intentional. Hey man, I'm just glad that Kasich went with a safe metaphor like America is at a crossroads, because he could have gone with a much more dangerous one. America is in a plane that's about to crash, and the only parachute has been thrown out of the window. Wait, maybe this was a bad idea. Now, understandably, a lot of progressives weren't happy to see the DNC giving airtime to a Republican who doesn't share the party's values. But at the same time, many people in the Democratic Party argue that in order to defeat Trump, they need to broaden their appeal to win those crucial swing states that gave Trump the White House in 2016. So if it means teaming up with anti-Trump Republicans, then so be it. And you know what this kind of reminds me of? It reminds me of Godzilla. Like, you remember how we hated Godzilla, right? Because he loved smashing our shit. But then Ghidorah showed up. And he didn't want to just smash our shit, he wanted to destroy the entire planet. So then as humans, we had to team up with Godzilla to take out Ghidorah. And who would have ever thought we'd be with Godzilla? We gave him a speaking slot at the convention, but it was worth it because he smashes shit, but we've got a planet. I'm sorry, I've been watching too many weird movies during quarantine. But don't get it twisted. Kasich may have spoken at the convention, but the prime slots were reserved for the Democratic heavy hitters, including the OG progressive himself, Bernie Sanders.
Together, we must build a nation that is more equitable, more compassionate, and more inclusive. I know that Joe Biden will begin that fight on day one. Joe supports raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour. Joe will rebuild our crumbling infrastructure and fight the threat of climate change by transitioning us to 100% clean electricity over the next 15 years. Joe Biden will end the hate and division Trump has created.
And then we can finally go back to the hate and division that existed before Trump. You know, the regular hate and division, not this crazy shit with the red hats and the boats. What the hell is that? I'm really impressed with Bernie Sanders because he's doing everything in his power right now to take down Donald Trump. Not only is he giving a full-throated endorsement of Joe Biden, but the man stayed up until 10 o'clock to give that speech. That's not nothing. And Bernie's point was very clear. He was telling his base that progressives cannot afford to cost protest votes like they did in 2016. Because this shit we lived through, this was 4 years of Trump still caring about being reelected. Imagine what he'd be like totally unleashed. Forget pardoning other people. Second term, Trump will be pardoning himself mid-crime. He'll be out there robbing banks like, all right, everybody, I'm gonna need you to get on the ground. Pardoned. This is a robbery. Put the money in the bag. Pardoned. And by the way, ma'am, I love your boobs. Pardoned. So the thrust of the night was clear. People across the ideological spectrum need to unite against Donald Trump. And by and large, I'm pretty impressed. I mean, a virtual convention has never happened before, but the Democrats were able to string together appearances from all around the country, from John Kasich in a field somewhere to Bernie Sanders giving a speech in a cabin where he clearly murdered Groot's entire family and stacked them in the background. But don't get me wrong, the night didn't go entirely smoothly.
Good evening. I'm Congressman Jim Clyburn here in historic. Good evening. I'm Congressman Jim Clyburn.
Hello, America.
The price of failure is just too great to imagine. Thank you.
Oh, I see what's going on here. This was smart of the Democrats, trying to make it seem like they have the same embarrassing tech issues as regular Americans. Very relatable. And you gotta feel bad for Bernie Sanders, man. An awkwardly timed applause can ruin any speech, no matter how good it is.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Now, the truth is, nobody remembers all the glitches and the bad timing. Because all anybody was talking about today was the Democrats' closer, former First Lady and walking vision board, Michelle Obama.
I understand that my message won't be heard by some people. We live in a nation that is deeply divided, and I am a Black woman speaking at the Democratic Convention. But enough of you know me by now. You know that I tell you exactly what I'm feeling. You know I hate politics. But you also know that I care about this nation. More than 150,000 people have died, and our economy is in shambles because of a virus that this president downplayed for too long. Donald Trump is the wrong president for our country. He has had more than enough time to prove that he can do the job, but he is clearly in over his head. He cannot meet this moment. He simply cannot be who we need him to be for us. It is what it is.
Oof. That was ice cold. And what made it even more devastating was that Michelle Obama wasn't angry. She wasn't yelling. She just stated Trump's complete failure as a president as an obvious fact. You know, it's the difference between your mom screaming at you and your mom just casually sipping a coffee and going, well, not all kids can be winners. And you know, another thing I appreciated about Michelle's speech is that she didn't shame people, right? In the last few years, it's been pretty standard in politics to shame people who don't agree with you and don't intend to vote like you. And a lot of it is fueled by the toxicity of online culture and how divided the country is right now. But instead of doing that, Michelle acknowledged that there are people who don't want to hear what she has to say, and then she respectfully and earnestly engaged with those who might want to listen to her and asked them to back Biden. I think that's what made her speech so brilliant. In a way, it's almost unfair that the Obama family was blessed with two charismatic public orators. I mean, they give great speeches all the time like it's nothing. And then you've got Trump, who acts like he's discovering the English language as he speaks. And so we have these accomplishments and accomplishments. So true. What a word. Now, it's no surprise that Donald Trump wasn't as impressed by Michelle's speech, but the reason why was pretty surprising.
She was over her head, and frankly, she should have made the speech live, which she didn't do. She taped it, and it was not only taped, it was taped a long time ago because she had the wrong deaths.
God damn. That is one of the biggest self-owns I have ever seen. 150,000 dead? I've killed 20,000 more since then, you idiot. Hey, Herman, get a load of this idiot. Herman? So, that's how the Democrats kicked off their convention. And if Democrats can get some more speeches like Michelle Obama's, well, then it's just a matter of time before America turns Donald Trump into Donald Dumped. Oh, tough room.